Hello to all of you. Today we will watch a short clip from a conference where Sergei Lavrov responds to a pointed question from a British journalist. I hope the answer will be just as sharp. The video is called "You Were Created Differently." Britain accused Russia and Lavrov responded with Biden's own words. Well, that's an intriguing title. Give it a like, let's watch.
Well, both colonialism and the issue of strange countries were mentioned. How can a state not be involved in this case? The floor goes to representatives of the British media. Please, Sky News.
By the way, Maria just said Britain, and no offense meant. I believe we should call it Britain because Great Britain, it's the only example where a country calls itself great, calls itself. Another example was the Libyan Jamahiriya, but it no longer exists.
Alright, so Lavrov has already set the tone. Apparently he's expecting some provocative questions. Well, let's watch.
Please.
Don't take this the wrong way. I mean, no offense.
No offense. That was funny.
Thank you. I'm not offended. Sky News on the issue of colonialism. When we look at what Russia is currently doing in Ukraine, how exactly does that differ from the concept of colonialism, which you speak out against here? Russia illegally annexed the territory of Crimea, and now you are actively attempting to seize and occupy 4 eastern regions by force. How is that different from colonialism?
When we consider the complex history of colonialism, well, we actually have a vast wealth of traditional proverbs that are specifically applicable to the important question you've just asked. But you know, when we look closer, Joe Biden met with Vladimir Putin in June 2021 at the historic Villa Lagrange in Geneva, Switzerland, and the high-stakes meeting commenced in a narrow format, with only the 2 presidents and their top diplomats present. Blinken and myself there, along with President Joe Biden, speaking without any notes or texts. He gave an opening speech and told you literally the following, that the United States and Russia are 2 great powers. We are not better than you, we are not worse than you, we are simply different. The United States of America was originally formed, primarily as a direct result of the large-scale migration of various semi-criminal elements originating from the country of England. They established themselves within their new territory and confronted the complex challenges of the indigenous populations. Then there were the deeply divisive and contentious debates regarding slavery and the massive waves of migration. And everyone who came to the United States, starting with the English settlers, all of them went into the melting pot. And there, regardless of their ethnic or other origins, they were melted down into Americans. And they came out of this melting pot with human rights written on their foreheads. I am quoting President Biden at that time. You, on the other hand, Joe Biden went on to say, were formed differently. You successfully developed the vast lands neighboring the original Muscovy. This was achieved not by suppressing and grinding down diverse peoples, but rather by joining with them in unity, while carefully preserving their unique languages, ancient traditions, religions, and rich cultures, and so on. And so today you have a vast country, the largest nation on the planet by land area, where the population is quite possibly the most multi-ethnic on Earth, and where this diversity is preserved and supported by the state. That is why Biden said, it is not easy for you to keep the country together, especially a country that possesses nuclear weapons in a state of unity. And I respect, Mr. President Putin, that you are able to do this.
Well, it's a fact, a fact. Basically, look, he can do it when he wants to.
Those were his words. He said, I can't imagine Russia falling apart. This was one of those times when Joe Biden spoke without notes, without a teleprompter, without a pen that signs everything by itself.
Well, that was still 2021, because by 2025, Biden had already objectively started to fall apart a bit. There were already tons of funny videos of him circulating on the internet, how he would fall, stumble, wander off somewhere, or get confused about something.
So I just want to draw your attention to the fact that colonialism, it is now entrenched in international law with regard to those states that had colonies and colonies that did not want to live with their metropolises. It's no coincidence that when the process of decolonization took place in 1960, which, as I already mentioned, remains unfinished, Britain unlawfully retains a number of overseas territories, including the Chagos Archipelago in the Chagos Archipelago. But it's no coincidence that in 1970 the General Assembly adopted a declaration by consensus. Britain voted in favor, the United States voted in favor, and everyone else, including the Europeans, voted in favor. The Declaration on the Principle. The Declaration on the Principles of International Law and the Principles of Relations between States, and there, in the context of comparing the principles of the Charter, above all, the principle of territorial integrity and the principle of national self-determination, a verdict was made. Every single nation-state is under a fundamental legal obligation to acknowledge and fully respect the sovereignty and territorial integrity of those specific states whose governments actively uphold and honor the right to self-determination and represent the entire population residing in the respective territory. So, in the 1960s, the peoples of Africa unequivocally declared that the metropolises, London, Paris, Madrid, Lisbon, did not represent the interests of the population of the respective colonial territories. And the process of decolonization took place. Starting back in the year 2014, and throughout the following years, following the coup d'etat in Ukraine, the residents living in the Crimean Peninsula, and then the peoples of Novorossiya and the Donbas region, through official referendums and the open expression of their will, collectively came to the firm conclusion that the Kiev authorities, who had unlawfully took control of the government through a coup, did not represent them in any way, the population of the respective territories. Therefore, with all due respect, this is not about colonialism or annexation, but about the full implementation of the principles approved by the UN General Assembly by consensus and with the complete agreement of all our Western colleagues, including Britain.
I expected an answer with some kind of jab, of course, but Lavrov responded calmly and rationally with references to some quotes, to historical precedents, to legislation. He explained everything clearly, laid it all out, and answered. So, give a like and subscribe. Goodbye, everyone.